Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. So I'm just going to check a couple little technical things here.
To the webinar.
Okay.
So I'm just going to check a couple little technical things.
Okay. All right. Looks like we are good to go. Okay, so welcome everyone that's already here. We'll wait a couple minutes before we really dive in for anybody else to join on. The website has a chat box right below this video. So make sure that you jump into the chat box. There's a little button in the bottom right corner of the chat that says set name. If you click on that, you can set your username so that we can see who you are. Otherwise, you'll show up as anonymous. So thank you to everyone who's already jumped in there. We are going to have a really great conversation today. We're going to be talking about how to manifest your most magical life. And make sure that you guys, really throw out ideas in the chat box. You can talk amongst yourselves. You can ask direct questions of me. I will be happy to clarify anything as I go along. Sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Allergy season. Okay, so I will be happy to answer questions as we go along, clarify things, and we'll also do a specific Q&A section at the very end. Thank you for the bless yous. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and really get started here. It looks like we have quite a few people joining on. Okay, so we are talking about how to manifest your most magical life. So, you are in the right place if you're ready to get clear on what that means to you, what living a magical life means in your own world and reality. You're in the right place if you're ready to integrate your magical realities into one cohesive whole. And obviously you're in the right place if you are ready to manifest the magical life that you want. We're going to talk about strategies on how to do that. We're going to talk about getting clear on what your ideal magical life looks like. You're going to leave this webinar with some fresh perspective on ways to integrate your magical and mundane lives. And hopefully you're going to have the tools you need to hold yourself accountable and really get started manifesting. Okay. All right. Okay. So just a little bit about me before we get started. So for those of you who maybe haven't been following me for a long time, my name is Tanae Stewart. I'm the Witch of Lupin Hollow. I share all sorts of content that's all really devoted to sharing wisdom so that you can discover your inner witch, develop your daily spiritual practice, and start living your most magical life. Sort of putting it all together into one holistic whole. I am a practicing cottage witch, which means that I practice a very holistic kind of kitchen magic, green magic, all different sorts of sort of eclectic sources, ancestral magic, things like that. And as a cottage witch, sanctuary is really important to me. So in manifesting my own magical life, that looks like, really making a home that really feels like sacred space. That looks like sort of manifesting my sort of dream job situation at the moment, which is very new. So I'm on this manifesting journey too. And, it's really about sort of figuring out what it is that you want and then going after it, but also allowing the universe to make it happen for you. And that's definitely what happened with me. So kind of my manifesting story most recently is within the last couple of months, really in the last month, I have, left my full-time day job that I loved in a lot of ways, but I had sort of maxed out where I could go with it. So I left that position. I accepted a new position that came completely out of the blue. in an arts organization, which is sort of my other passion besides magic and witchcraft and manifesting. So I'm working part-time, which gives me time to work on Loop and Hollow, work on my business, and work on building my brand, and be able to be a spiritual coach and show up here for you guys with this sort of content. It's really important to me to provide lots of high quality, high value blog posts and webinars and all that sort of thing. I think it's really important to be able to connect with you guys regularly. And so this new job situation allows me to do that. And I've had a few other really exciting things. I haven't talked about this anywhere publicly yet. I'm not sure if I am actually supposed to, but I'm going to share it just with you guys today. For the is I actually recently just signed a book deal. So I'm going to be writing a book about self-care. So all of those really exciting things all kind of happened because I got clear about what I wanted. I got clear about wanting to, have time to run my business and have time for, other things that I'm passionate about. And then I kind of sat back and I sort of went with the flow. I let it happen. There's strategies, but there's also having faith and having trust that it'll work. And that what you want is what you deserve to have. Thank you for the congrats. It's very exciting. So stay tuned, more info coming about the new book. So we're going to really dive in now. So getting a clear picture in your head of what you want is the first step, and perhaps the most important step in manifesting anything. So before we go any further, I just want to sort of define what manifesting is exactly, for anyone who is new to this concept of manifestation. So manifesting is the process of creating the life that you want, or co-creating it with doing your part, and then having the faith and the expectation that the universe is also going to sort of give that back in kind. So, it's putting it out there and letting it all come back to you. You still have to do the work, but it's combining the esoteric with, the help that you can get connected with your spirituality. Help with both of those parts, and combining the work, combining the strategies, combining the daily tasks with the esoteric principles, and your own spiritual beliefs. So it's sort of, that what that's going to look like is unique to you. So the first step to manifesting something is getting a clear picture. If you are putting something out into the universe and you're not clear about what it is that you want, you're saying you want something, but you haven't gotten really clear about why, or maybe it's not actually something you want at all. It's just something you think you want, but you haven't done the work to really deep dive on figuring out, what's coming next, and why you want that. A lot of times we think we want things, but they're not really what's in our best interest. So you have to really do that work to figure out what you want and why, before you're going to be able to get any further with it. So I think that the best way to go about getting a clear picture is using visualization as a tool. So picturing what you want is the ideal way to kind of get an image in your head that you can refer back to whenever you're working on this project of manifesting your magical life. When you aren't really what you want, or you're asking for something but you aren't really sure why, it's pretty hard for the universe to give it to you. So getting that clear picture in your head is a great way. So I like to do this kind of meditation style. You get comfortable, close your eyes, take some deep cleansing breaths. Start imagining a day in your ideal life. Start from waking up in the morning. What do you do first thing when you wake up? What do you have for breakfast? Try to be really specific, but don't force it. That visualization is, it's not just sort of picturing what you think you want. It's really allowing your subconscious to tell you what you actually want and what you need. So, think ideal, not perfect. Nothing is perfect, and you do want to strive for attainable goals. That doesn't mean not thinking big. It doesn't mean not thinking out of the box, but it just means sort of allowing yourself to, imagine the biggest, best possible thing you could want, but also picturing it in reality. Not just picturing like if everything was exact, this is what it would look like. Rather, in my real life, in my own experience, this is what I think this would actually look like. Strive for your ideal life instead of perfection. Even if your dreams are massive and seem out of reach, that doesn't mean they're not attainable. You just want to find that balance between ideal, what you really want, and sort of that unattainable perfection. I like to walk through a day in the life because it takes you through all the magical and mundane moments. You're imagining all the little things that you're doing throughout the day in your ideal life. And even in your ideal life, there's still going to be things that you don't necessarily want to do. There's going to be chores that have to be taken care of. But how do you those chores? Imagine yourself doing chores in your ideal life and imagine how you feel instead of, maybe how you feel about them now. Think about how you spend your leisure time. Think about what you do for work, how you express your spirituality, what you're eating and drinking, who you're spending your time with. All of these are important aspects to, kind of put out there so that you're being really specific, while still making sure that you always allow, the universe to give something even better. You never know, what's going to come along. I had no idea that this new job with this arts organization was going to come along. It wasn't something I was actively looking for. It was something I had been actively looking for at one point, and that wasn't the right time. And so I had tried so hard to force it to make it happen, and there was no way it was ever going to happen in that situation. But when I stopped being so specific, I stopped worrying about, how to make it happen. It happened. So Flower Freckled Flynn says, I'd say visualization is similar to daydreaming, though daydreaming is more passive and you don't incorporate your own intent in it usually. So yeah, I mean, daydreaming can be really powerful. It can give you a great way to kind of tap into your, desires and what you want. But visualization is going deeper than that. It's really allowing your subconscious to guide you. So intent is kind of yes and no. You're doing it with intention, you're visualizing with intention, and you're being mindful about that, but you're also sort of allowing your mind to, kind of let go and, kind of step back and allow your subconscious to guide. So it's sort of like intention and mindful, but also sort of letting go of the control of what the daydream or the visualization looks like. It sounds like a couple people are having some audio problems. It's working fine for me. So maybe try refreshing the browser, or you can open it directly in YouTube instead of on the website. You'll have to toggle back and forth to get to the chat box, but I would try that as well. Okay. So the next step, once you have, this really powerful visualization of what you think that your ideal magical life looks like, that your subconscious has really guided you to, the next step is to take action. How are you going to start making the life you visualized actually happen? So this is where you have to find that balance between doing the work and having the faith, right? You have to really find the balance that works for you, because I think it's really different for all of us. There's really something to be said for kind of, like I said, not trying to force it. When we try a little bit too hard, when we picture things and we get really specific and we're not allowing room for kind of the universe to, change it and adapt it to something that's even better, that couldn't have even, when you're in that mode of trying to just create yourself, instead of co-creating, you really block yourself in that way. So you have to strike that balance of taking action and, putting your focus and your energy in, and also allowing, the universe to do its part and to just sort of flow with what's going to happen. So I find the best way to make this happen, to sort of strike the balance of focus and flow, is to start integrating your magical and mundane lives. So a lot of us have this vision of a life where we get to express our spirituality freely. Maybe our work is related to our spiritual beliefs, or we get to spend our leisure time doing the things that we love, which are often also related to our spirituality. But if your mundane daily life is kind of out of sync with those beliefs, the combination of the two is going to be really, really hard. So it's not about thinking about your spirituality 24/7. It's not that you have to be doing rituals every single day. That's not really what it's about. It's more about living this holistic, cohesive existence so that everything you do makes sense for you. It doesn't matter if it makes sense to anyone else. It matters if it makes sense to you. So when you're thinking of those two different lives, your magical life and your mundane life, as totally separate spheres, it becomes really hard to have crossover between them, even if that's something that you really want. So how do you go about doing this? My favorite way to integrate the magical and the mundane is through the power of mini rituals. It's definitely not important to have this big sort of drawn out ritual practice all the time. But it is important to sort of find ways to express your spirituality regularly so that you feel connected to it, so that you are really tapped into your intuition, you're paying attention to your needs, and you're really allowing your spirituality to be a part of your daily life, even if it's in really small little ways. So you've probably heard me talk about mini rituals before. It's something I talk about a lot because I really do think it's that important. So mini rituals are like little bite-sized ways that you can get tapped into your spirituality, even in really mundane circumstances. So, maybe you love ritual bathing, but it's not something that you have time for more than, maybe once or twice a month. Instead of saying, well, that's something I love to do but I never have time for it, and so that's not really part of my spiritual practice. Find other ways to connect with the element of water, connect with the element and give thanks to it when you're washing your hands, or even doing the dishes. That's a mini ritual. Getting connected, finding the magic in the mundane circumstances, that's a mini ritual. Some other examples are sort of holding a crystal, feeling the cool weight of it in your hand, using that as a meditation aid. You could be moving through seated cat cow or prayer pose yoga poses while sitting at your desk at work. Those are mini rituals. It's the little things that you can do your spirituality so that you feel tapped in. It's really about how you feel about it and how much you need to have that connection. We all have kind of our own levels of that, how much we need to feel tapped in, and how much of a ritual you need in order to feel tapped in. Maybe holding a crystal is more than enough for you, but maybe you need something a little more than that. Maybe you need to carve out 5 to 10 minutes in your day to hold a crystal and use it to draw a tarot card and do some journaling about that. Mini rituals, I like to say, are kind of anywhere between like 5 seconds and 10 minutes. Most of them are going to be like 10 seconds, 3 minutes, like somewhere around there. But you can go a little longer too. If you have more time and that's something that you want to dedicate to your spirituality, then do it. It's about finding the balance of how much you need your spirituality to be integrated into your daily life. But when you start integrating your magical and your mundane lives, you really start to, be able to manifest more and more of what you want because you're really allowing all sides of yourself to have a voice in that. Now, if you are in the broom closet, you might be feeling like this isn't for you. But there are lots of ways to integrate your magical and mundane life in ways that are completely private and personal. So, if the people in your life don't know about or don't support your spiritual beliefs, you might be thinking that none of this applies to you and that it's impossible to integrate your magical and mundane lives. And I actually completely understand that because I used to be there. I actually worked at a Christian school for many years, and I was always really worried that someone was going to find my blog, that someone was going to find out about my beliefs, that I was going to have to justify myself and explain myself. Which was upsetting because I liked what I did. I liked where I was working, even though it might not have necessarily been the right fit for me. But overall, it was a good experience. And I didn't want to have that be tainted by, sort of having to explain myself. That was how I felt about it at the time. But even if that's sort of the situation that you're in, you're worried about people finding out, you don't feel like you can openly express your spirituality, it is still possible to integrate your magical and mundane lives. Like, that's not something that's going to be an obstacle for you necessarily. And that's because this integration, although maybe you can integrate rituals, in more open ways if that's what you're comfortable with. If you're not, this doesn't have to be outward at all. It can be completely personal and focused on you, focused inward. You can start infusing your mundane life with magic without anyone ever knowing. It's all kind of internal, it's all mental, it's all within you. You can set up discrete altars on your mantelpiece, desk, nightstand, things like candles, natural items like seashells, things that, no one else has to know has a spiritual significance. You control how much you share. That is completely and entirely up to you. At no point are you ever required to express your spirituality in a way that doesn't feel comfortable to you. And, if that's where you're at, if you feel like the things that you're currently doing to express your spirituality are pushing you too far outside your comfort zone, then, you need to find ways to bring that back into balance so that your magical and mundane lives are integrated in a way that are very equal. We need the mundane. We need our daily tasks and chores. We need all of that sort of, sort of daily, the chores, the little things that have to happen so that we can sort of function and move forward, right, and live in society. We all have work, we have school, we have kids, we have pets, we have things that we are responsible for, and that's not going to go away. Even in your most magical life, right, there's still going to be those things that have to get taken care of, and people you are obligated to or responsible for. And so integrating your magical and mundane lives is really about striking that balance, finding where they balance out in your life, because it's different for everyone. And if you are in that situation where you're in the so-called broom closet, you're not comfortable talking about your spirituality or expressing it openly, then your balance is going to be a little bit quieter, it's going to be a little bit softer. But there are still ways, absolutely, to kind of integrate your different realities so that only you really know about it. And if any of you that are watching this are kind of in that situation and are feeling that way, I really encourage you to jump into the live chat in the chat box below the video so that we can kind of talk that through. So if anyone is really feeling that way and you're not sure how to go about integrating your life without other people knowing, go ahead and send a chat message in and we can all talk about it. I will say that, coming out of the broom closet is really freeing. And that's not something I ever thought I would say. I really slowly came out as a witch to my friends, my family, my parents, over the last few years. And really, it's only up until the last couple of months that I have really been completely open with everyone in my life. And I couldn't be more glad that I did that. But it has really taken me a long time to really feel comfortable with that. And I'm still getting comfortable as I am, on video, talking to you guys in webinars and on YouTube, things like that. It's really taken me a long time, and I'm still getting comfortable talking about my spirituality and about my business, in public, in person. Like, that is still a source of anxiety for me. So I totally understand. But I can also say that I am so glad that I am now at the point I am. So if, that's something that you've been wanting to do, that, you feel like coming out of the broom closet is something that is in your future, I really encourage you to kind of explore what that looks like for you. Don't do anything that doesn't make you feel comfortable. But even if it doesn't feel possible right now, know that that is something you can work towards. And that, it really depends on your individual situation. And your own level of comfort is really the most important part. Okay. Now, the other thing to think about is how to hold yourself accountable. Saying that you want to manifest certain things or experiences in your ideal magical life, that's essentially making a promise to yourself that you're going to achieve those things. It's one thing to, like Flynn said in the chat, it's one thing to daydream about it. It's one thing to say, oh, maybe someday, maybe someday that's something that I'll pursue. It's another to actively set out to manifest something. That is making a promise, and making sure that you keep your promise is your main job. Once you've declared that this is what you're going to do, you have to make sure that you keep the promises we make to ourselves. Those are the most important promises. Promises can be hard to keep when they're to other people. They're even harder to keep when they're to ourselves, because there isn't necessarily someone else who's going to come along and say, hey, you didn't do that thing you promised me you were going to do. So, as you go about integrating your magical and mundane lives, there are kind of certain things that you're going to want to integrate first. Like, those are going to be, the first habits that you want to start creating in your new magical life. And so my favorite accountability technique is a habit tracker. So basically, it's just sort of a little spreadsheet that you create, and you mark off each of the tasks or habits or rituals that you want to do every day. You mark it off every day that you did it. You can see at a glance how well you're doing, what's working, and what's not working. That's the sort of tool that really gives you a lot of power to reflect, to see, maybe to try to understand why something isn't working. Maybe you want to meditate every day, but at the end of the month, you see that you only did it like 3 times. Well, maybe you're trying to meditate for too long. Maybe you weren't able to carve out as much time as you wanted to. Maybe it's that you want to be doing yoga every day. Same thing, right? If you're not actively doing the things that you said you wanted to do, then either you need to reevaluate and ask yourself why they didn't work, and maybe you don't want them as much as you thought you did. And that's part of that same process that sort of brings you back to the beginning of, okay, I thought I had it figured out. I thought I had a clear picture of what my most ideal magical life looked like, but maybe I don't. Maybe I still have work to do to get clearer. Or maybe it's just that you were kind of forcing it. You were pushing it a little bit too hard. Maybe instead of trying to meditate for 30 minutes every day, maybe you try to meditate for 5 minutes once a week and then work up. You sort of, using a habit tracker gives you a lot of control over sort of understanding what your goals are and why. Another great tool is to get engaged with a community. Peer pressure is real. This is, the same sort of thing that, if you make a promise only to yourself, then there's no one else to hold you accountable for it. If you make a promise, tell the made that promise to yourself, and you ask that community to keep you accountable, whether that's your best friend or your mom or someone online, that's going to be sort of one more way that you help yourself keep that promise. Having friends who know what you're going through, who are excited about what you're excited about. They know what you're struggling with. They can support you through, the good and the bad, the struggles and the successes. It's really awesome when you get to turn to someone and be really excited and share about the thing or experience that you just manifested. And the excited you get about that, the more often it's going to happen. And that's, even if those friends are only online, they don't know your real name, that's okay. So, again, even if you are totally in the spiritual broom closet, and nobody in your life knows about your practice, there are still ways that you can, really connect with other like-minded modern witches and, really express your spirituality in that group setting and hold each other accountable. That's really an incredibly supportive way to have accountability. You have the support and love of people who share your beliefs. Okay, so let's see. We have a couple of questions in here. Jade asks, are you part of Coven? So I am not personally. I'm what's usually referred to as a solitary witch. So that means mostly I work on my own. I do have a few friends that, sometimes we'll gather at the full moon and have dinner or, do something together. But it's a very loosely defined a group. So the short answer is no, I do not belong to a coven. I do think that the coven format is a really great way if you want that really structured community. Trying to pull together some people to be your coven, whatever that definition looks like to you, can be super powerful. So community, coven, kind of whatever you call it, has that same really powerful mode of gathering. Flynn says, I'm doing a magical roots challenge that has a different small magical task to do every day. I'm a part of a group of people who talk online about witchcraft, and I've managed to get a group of us all to do the same challenge with me so that we can all ensure we actually do it. That is totally exactly what I'm talking about. When you have a group of people doing something together, it's the same, in business, we call it a mastermind group. In fitness, you can have these sorts of groups where, you go running with the same people every day. You have these kind of accountability buddies who help keep you accountable to yourself and vice versa. You are as responsible for them as they are for you. And that can be really, really powerful. So the main takeaways here from everything that we've talked about. Number one is to manifest your most magical life, you need to get a clear picture of exactly what that looks like to you. Tell the universe exactly what you want, with the caveat that, allow the universe to give you something better. Don't get so specific that, you sort of mentally block yourself. Once you know what you want to manifest, or number two, integrating your magical and mundane lives is an essential step. You can do this with mini rituals throughout your day to really infuse your daily life with magic. When you're expressing your spirituality regularly, you're making it a priority. You're really in that co-creation process. You're really showing that this is something that's important to you. I think that when we sort of get this clear picture, we know what we want, but it doesn't feel possible, we either try to make it happen, which doesn't get us anywhere, or we sort of say, well, that I don't think that's really possible right now, maybe in the future, but I don't feel like there's anything I can really do to make my life feel more magical. But you always have that power, you always have that control. So it's sort of recognizing the power in yourself and going about making your life more magical. If a more magical life is what you want, then there are things you can implement. Any of the mini rituals we've talked about today, and there's lots more on my blog and YouTube channel if you need more inspiration. There's so many different ways that you can introduce more magical elements into your day and to your life. One that I love that I was just writing about, that just came to mind, is on my commute to work in my old job. So this is something I will miss about my old job. On my daily commute, I would always, as I would pass through this one pretty rural stretch, I would always sort of take notice of the trees and the grass and the nature around me. It was just like a 3 to 5 minute stretch of road, but it was really pretty always, all year long. And so I would always sort of take notice of that. And after I had worked there for a while and I drove this commute every day, I started to realize that I was so familiar with the landscape that I knew where the daffodils were going to bloom. I knew when to expect them. I knew which trees were going to turn orange first. And I sort of realized that I had, however unintentionally, created this little connection with the seasons, this almost like little seasonal meditation, an observance of nature as part of my daily commute, as part of me driving to work in the morning. So there's so many ways like that you can really take your most mundane moments, the things that don't feel magical at all, and make them feel like they're a part of your spiritual practice. Okay, number three, as you're pursuing the magical life that you want and you're starting to manifest the things and experiences that are most important to you, that you really want to have in your life, make sure that you have the tools in place to hold yourself accountable and to keep the promises that you've made to yourself. Whether that's through community, whether that's through journaling and tracking the things that you're doing, your actions that you're taking. Another thing that you can do is really state what you expect to receive in return. Not just the things you want to manifest, but sort of the steps to get there. If you want to manifest a new job, you have your part that you're tracking, and you know what you're doing, the act that you're taking to make that happen. But what are you asking in return? What is the co-creation part of that? What are you asking the universe to do because you are making this progress? So make sure that you have the tools you need. And, the most important thing to remember is sometimes you're going to hit roadblocks. Sometimes you are not going to manifest the thing that you wanted to, or maybe it's going to take a lot longer than you thought. Maybe you got crystal clear about it and you started taking action and you made it clear what you wanted in return, and it just didn't happen. That's the time to turn to your community for support, but it's also the time to take a good look at what you want, why you want it, and to forgive yourself for anything that needs forgiveness. Because a lot of times when it doesn't work quite the way we think it should, or the way we think it's supposed to, we sort of beat ourselves up that, well, I didn't do it right, or, maybe I was fooling myself. Maybe that's not really what I wanted. And maybe that's true. But that's okay. It's okay if you didn't get it right. It's okay if you thought you wanted something that it turns out you didn't actually want at all. It's your prerogative to change your mind about the things you think you want. So, always, 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 the most important thing is when it doesn't work the way you think it's supposed to, or, you don't achieve the thing that you said you wanted, or, even when you break the promise to yourself. Yes, it's important to try to keep promises to yourself. It's important to set that precedent. But, maybe you made a promise and you couldn't keep it for some reason. That's okay. You have to forgive yourself for those moments. It's important to strive for your best. It's important to strive to keep the promises you make. But when that doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. You're going to survive. And you just have to sort of forgive yourself, reevaluate, and pick up and start again. So that's sort of the bulk of this webinar. I just talked for like 40 minutes about manifesting here. And that's just because, this is something that I do get so excited about. An anonymous user says, I find it really easy to forgive others, but really hard to forgive myself. Do others find this? And yeah, I think that is so true. It's one thing, especially for those of us sort of on this spiritual path or journey, we make forgiveness a part of our spirituality, and we, really make it a priority to, forgive the people around us, to, allow them to have the space that they need. But then we sort of crowd ourselves and we, beat ourselves up about whatever it is that we couldn't accomplish or do the way we wanted to. And honestly, I think that's a really personal, individual journey to, figuring out how to be able to forgive yourself more. But I think the first step, really the biggest thing, is just to become aware of it, to really notice when you are not giving yourself the same forgiveness you would give to someone else. To really allow space to notice it, because a lot of times, we sort of see these around us, we see them in other people, but we don't always see them in ourselves. So, the first step to changing any habit is just to become aware that you have the habit in the first place. So, if you can sort of just start to notice when you are being hard on yourself, when you're beating yourself up, maybe even, journal about that, track it. And see where are the areas where you seem to not be willing to give yourself the same space and forgiveness you'd give someone else. And then, from there, it's just sort of a matter of, going on your personal journey with that and figuring out how to change it, how to allow yourself forgiveness. Maybe, your manifestation process just takes a little bit longer because you need to sort of work on that roadblock first. And there are other roadblocks that can come up that, you might need to work out before you're going to be able to, start the first step of really getting clear about what you want. You sort of have to work on your own internal landscape about what you think about the things that you want. If you think you are capable of manifesting them, all that sort of thing. So, I know from personal experience how really life-changing this whole process can be. Like I said, I'm in the middle of a major up level right now, and I've been manifesting my magical life all over the place. I'm going to be able to pursue several passions. I'm going to be able to work on my business. I have this amazing opportunity with my new book. There's a couple more comments here. Yes, Flynn, feel free to link it in the chat box. I'll even leave the chat box up for people to find it later on during the replay. And yeah, I mean, I think that just to revisit the forgiveness conversation with the conversation that's happening in the chat, that's a really good point, that sometimes we do forgive ourselves and then we go back and we say, oh, I don't know that I should have done that. But the thing is, you can't worry about anything that's happened beforehand. You just have to focus on the future. You have to focus on, manifesting the next thing that you want to see in your life, the next experience you want to have. And, if that involves forgiving yourself, if that involves pushing yourself a little harder, if that involves really taking a step back and letting things go and allowing them to happen, it really depends on your own personal journey. But, allowing yourself to sort of know and be aware of where your struggles are it's a big first step. That's a big step in sort of addressing the roadblocks that you could have. So, the thing is, and then that takes me right back into what I was going to say next, is as soon as you stop trying to force it, and just really allow yourself to be truly open, whether that's being open to forgiving yourself for something, whether that's being open to new opportunities, it all starts to kind of flow in. And that's definitely been my experience. I realized after all of these recent manifestations, I really realized that this is sort of the process I've gone through all my life is, I get really clear about what I want. I've always been really good about that part. And then I freak out and I try to force it and I try to make it happen. It happened, I've done it with relationships. I did it with finding our house. I've done it with so many different situations. I did it with finding this new job and with trying to, go part-time with my business. For example, so basically I really wanted to leave my full-time job to go work for an arts organization. That's what my degree's in. That's what I wanted to do. And so I spent a lot of time applying for jobs, many of which I was incredibly well qualified for, and I couldn't even get an interview. My friends and family, granted they're my friends and family, so they had to say this, but I know it was sincere too. Everyone was like, I don't understand what's happening. You're so qualified for these jobs you're applying for. And I wasn't even getting calls back. And so I decided I was just going to go with the flow. And, instead of trying to leave my job or find a job to go to first, I was just going to have faith and I was going to, try to go part-time in my full-time job. And that would leave me open to, the right opportunity coming along was my thought process. And so I went to my boss and I had a whole plan and I wanted to go part-time and I, expected a tough negotiation and I got a hard no. And I was not expecting that. The situation I was in, I really thought that they would have been open to it, but they weren't at all. Basically, full-time or nothing, which I hadn't anticipated. And so then I just felt like really defeated. I was like, well, I was being open, I was taking this leap of faith and I still didn't manifest it the way I wanted to. I just still didn't manifest anything. And so then within a couple months, I started to feel defeated. And then I just started to say, you know what, it's just not the right time. The thing will come along when it's supposed to. Just stop trying to force it. And then out of the blue, I got an email asking me to apply for this position that I'm now in. And it was a total fluke, the way that they even found me, the people who recommended me. It was one of those perfect synchronistic serendipitous things. And that's when I really started to realize that I have been doing this all my life. I have been, getting clear. I've been taking action, but I still don't really allow things to come to me. I try really hard to force it. And so just in the last couple months, I really started to get clear about this roadblock that I've had and start to be able to work through it and break it down. So, once opportunities appear, I did the visualization work at that point and kind of got clear on how I wanted it to work out. It's not, again, it's the combination of the work and the spiritual. It's not just that I kind of gave up and then things happened. It's more that I felt like I was giving up, but really I was finally embracing truly that sense of flow and allowing things to come to me. Knowing what I wanted, being really clear about what I didn't want, which is sometimes half the battle. And then, there's sort of those growing pains, but it starts to happen. So I just want to share with you guys my membership program that's all about all of these kinds of topics. So I have a membership program that I'm running that's currently open for enrollment called Live Your Magical Life. So it's a monthly membership program, and it's all about helping the members to integrate your magical and mundane lives. It's sort of the support system to be able to do exactly that. So the main part of that is there's a private forum on the website just for members to, sort of share your journey, share your practice, share your struggles, share your goals, and, set intentions and hold each other accountable, be there for each other, be a supportive community of like-minded modern witches. And certainly I'm in there as well, posting and sharing. But in addition to the community, the other part of the membership is all about sort of having ideas to help you integrate. So every month we have a monthly theme. For May, for 2019, the theme is self-care. Next month's theme, June 2019, is going to be herbalism. So every month there's sort of a general theme of a type of tool or a way that you can express your spirituality. And so then we really deep dive into how to go about that. So there's 2 live chats with me every month. So it's sort of like a private little webinar. You can ask questions. It's set up in just this same format as a webinar with the chat box. Or you can always, those videos are sort of available in perpetuity to the members. So you can always go back and watch them anytime. There's also a recorded video with a guest expert on the particular topic. So May, for self-care, I interviewed my friend Nixie Marie of I Am Goddess Collective. For June, I'm going to be interviewing my friend Alexis of Warts and Cunning. So, somebody that really is an amazing practitioner of whatever the theme is that we're talking about. And then there's also a themed workbook every month of mini rituals around the theme. So 6 ideas to get you started and get your ideas flowing, get inspiration going for how to create mini rituals around this theme and start integrating them into your life. So I'm really excited to be sort of connecting with modern witches and my community in this way, in this really private, personal way, and to be helping you start manifesting your most magical lives. That's the most important part here. So the membership is $40 per month. You can sign up at any time. You'll have access to all of the current and past content. Right now, though, just for webinar subscribers here, I'm offering a really, really special bonus. This is something that I only am offering in this context at the moment, is a free private oracle reading. It'll be a 1-card reading, probably with my favorite deck, which is the Threads of Fate deck. So if you sign up by May 31st, that'll be the deadline for this offer. If you sign up by May 31st, you'll get a free private reading with me. So I'll draw 1 card, sort of ask the universe, what it is that you need to know to be able to manifest and step into your most magical life. I'll draw a card and I'll do a video for you and send you a private link to it. So, this is a really special kind of one-time only thing. So Jade says, is your membership month to month, or do you have to sign up to a certain term? The membership is month to month, so you can sign up at any time, you can cancel at any time, you can rejoin at any time. So, you can cancel your membership for a while if you need to and rejoin when you're able. You can, sign up and try it out just for the coming month and have access to the content. And if you love it, awesome, stick around and hang out with me. And if not, then you can cancel at any time. So it's very flexible, really able to kind of work with your own schedule. There are live chats, so if you're able to show up live, you can ask questions just like this in the chat box. But like I said, you'll have access review. So there's sort of no really big time commitment, or it's not really governed too much by time zones. So it's very, very flexible. It's really designed to fit into your daily life, depending on your own sort of mundane restrictions and obligations, and to help you, really start integrating a more magical experience into your daily life. So we have already been going for almost an hour here, guys. So if anyone has any questions about manifesting, about integrating your magical and mundane lives, about how to use mini rituals, about the membership, bonus oracle reading, drop them in the chat box. I am going to stick around for a few minutes and answer any that you might have. So feel free to ask away in there. Or, if you think of something later, you can always shoot me an email. It's just info@witchofloopandhollow.com. So you can shoot me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so this has, I think, been one of my longer webinars, but this is just such an exciting topic. So you can actually, if you want to check out more about the membership, there's a button directly below the chat box that says click here. If you click on that, it'll take you to the main page of the membership. You can learn all about it, and just sort of, really dive in and see what you think. Thank you to everybody who, joined us today live, and in the future to anybody that's going to be watching the replay. I think that this is such an important topic to be sharing about and to be talking about, to be sort of having conversation about within the community, is, what does your life look like and how can you make it more magical in the ways that are meaningful for you? So this is, just one of my kind of most passionate topics, I guess. Manifesting has really come into my life so much, and I realized in looking back, there's so many things that I have, sort of gone through this process of manifestation with and didn't even realize it. And when you really start to think about it, when you think about the times where you just sort of let it go and let it happen, and the awesome things that happened because of that, I promise there's probably at least one instance of it in your life too, that this really works. It's really special. It's a special power and opportunity that we all kind of have within us to figure out what we want and then to make it happen and allow it to happen. Okay, so it looks like we don't really have too many more questions popping up. So if you have a question, throw it in now. Otherwise, feel free to shoot me an email. And, I hope that I will see you guys in the membership. I hope to be able to do a private oracle reading for you and help you get started on your journey of manifesting your most magical life. And I will, see you in all of the places, Instagram, YouTube, on the blog, all of the other spots that you can find me. And I will talk to you guys soon.